What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news and updates. So, we've just had a new patch for the game, and this has adjusted a couple of the new exotic armors for Season 14, so we'll touch on what's worth knowing there. And Bungie also clarify lack of Pinnacle drops in Expunge. On top of this, the crossplay beta is now live in the game. And so we have a few housekeeping notes to touch on, and then we're going to talk about Vault of Glass secrets and cheese. Killing Atheon very easily is a thing, but we've also got a leaked cutscene and a few other things to talk about inside of the video. So as always guys, I hope you enjoy this one, but without further delay, let's get into it. And initially, with the first Expunge mission having just gone live, Bungie Help said that the weekly Expunge mission was advertised as a weekly Pinnacle mission. However, it won't grant Pinnacle rewards until the weekly challenge is added on June 15th. And so they are updating articles and calendars to reflect that. Kind of unfortunate, I guess we'd prefer to have the Pinnacle drop now, but nonetheless the mission itself for the week was really cool. A lot of jumping, giving me vertigo, but it was a pretty fun addition to the weekly quest, and there is a triumph to clear this week's run in less than 10 minutes as well, if you fancy getting your speed run on the go. But something else to touch on in the game is that the crossplay beta is now live as well, and so this will run up until May 27th, which is tomorrow, and you can find it on its own unique node in the Strikes playlist, but also there is the opportunity to earn the crossplay beta emblem right there. So certainly worth jumping in for a few runs if you want to pick that up. And now let's talk about some patch changes from the update just yesterday. There were some adjustments to exotics, so Bungie say they fixed an issue where the Star Raider scales were erroneously applying its damage bonus to weapons and grenades, instead of only supers as intended. And they've also increased the maximum number of stacks required for full damage, from 4 stacks to 8 stacks. And so no longer is that affecting grenades or weapons, but they do actually get more super damage now according to a few players. So the super damage part of it was somewhat buffed, but everything else was somewhat nerfed, I suppose. And so a bit of a mixed bag. Give us your thoughts about it down below. But they also fixed an issue where players could spawn too many Noble Seekers with Boots of the Assembler by stepping in and out of a rift. And when Warlocks wearing Boots of the Assembler are extending the duration of a rift, class ability regeneration pauses, and they say the reason for this change was to both prevent game crashes caused by too many rifts being placed in a single activity, and to restore some of the advantage to running Sanguine Alchemy over Boots of the Assembler. And so a couple of adjustments right there. I know players have got feedback about that, so again, give us your thoughts down below. But they also adjusted Energy Accelerant, which no longer increases damage against players, and no longer increases base damage of Symmetry, Telesto, Black Talon, and Deathbringer. Additionally, Sundering Blast no longer causes Overload champions to exit their stun state when damaged by the explosion created by the mod. But they also adjusted Cryesthesia, incorrectly accruing progress from energy weapon kills, and the Catalyst Triumph being displayed in the wrong category. And then they fixed an issue where the weapon could fire multiple freeze shots without losing the charged shot buff, and a problem where existing drops of the Swarm with Unrelenting switched to Bottomless Grief. And finally, of course, the Splicer Servitors Weekly Challenge is now awarding Pinnacle gear as advertised, as well as them fixing the Pinnacle drop in Presage. And so those are the main beats, although there are a couple of smaller adjustments. And so if you want to check anything else out, I'll link those patch notes down below. Up next, Bungie clarified some stuff about XP and seasonal challenges. And they say with some confusion about how it works this season, they wanted to clear up some miscommunications. And they say first, there was a bug last season where players who earned XP bonuses from Season 12's pass did not have these bonuses reset at the start of Season 13. And this carryover resulted in Season 13 challenges paying out much greater XP than intended. And rather than opting to fix the bug mid-season, we decided to leave it in place and let players continue to benefit from it. But we mistakenly didn't acknowledge this as a bug in Season 13, and also missed it in the patch notes for Season 14. They also say they changed the overall naming convention for challenges, and the reason we moved to the new naming convention was to better highlight that XP payouts from challenges were larger than from bounties and activities that show XP as a reward, and we didn't clearly explain this change, nor was the new naming convention easy to understand. And this led to confusion as players began tackling challenges on week 1. And so they say they do plan to update the names once again for clarity in a future patch, but for the time being, this is a quick look at how the seasonal challenge XP payouts have been updated. So in Season 13, an extra large XP payout has a base payout size of 0.25 ranks, but with well rested, that becomes 0.5 ranks. Season 13 standard XP and Season 14's times 2 extra large XP pays out 0.5 ranks at base and 1 rank with well rested. In Season 13, double XP and Season 14's times 4 extra large XP will pay out 1 ranks as a base payout and 2 ranks as a well-rested payout, and then 4 times XP from Season 13, or times 8 extra large XP in Season 14, it's 2 ranks at base and 4 ranks with well-rested. And they say season challenges are still the go-to resource for consistent XP, and players who complete all challenges and make use of the well-rested bonus will still exceed level 100 in the Season Pass. We'll keep an eye on the data and feedback, and let you know if we plan to make any changes to this in Season 15. And so that explains the kind of change between the 2 seasons when it comes to season challenges and the XP that we get. And so feel free to give us your thoughts about it, and I'll also link their article down below. Now though, let's touch on some Vault of Glass secrets and cheese real quick. It's super fun to have the raid back, and you guys may have seen the reprised Vex Mythoclast that drops from Atheon. There is also a catalyst for it that can be earned by capturing various miniature sync plates and shooting oracle sequences throughout the raid. That's a pretty cool additional layer, and I'll link a detailed video down below from my buddy Jarv on how to acquire the catalyst. Also, after the final sequence, in the jumping puzzle before Atheon, there is a cool Easter egg at the portal on the rock platform, where we can see back into the Whisper mission on Io. And of course, inside of that mission, before it was vaulted, we could see the chasm inside of the Vault of Glass. So, pretty cool that it looks both ways. Of course, it makes sense, but still cool. There's also a little bit of cheese going on in some of the raid encounters. A pretty useful one at the Gatekeeper checkpoint, but of course we have to defend confluxes on Mars and Venus, and we're supposed to use relics to destroy certain Praetorian shields, but strangely enough, Prometheus Lens can also remove those shields, which makes things a little bit less mechanically complex when trading relics and things like that. It is also possible to cheese Atheon, removing most of the actual mechanics of the encounter. So during the Gatekeeper encounter, you basically get all players to set spawn points on Venus by heading through the portal individually and waiting inside for a few seconds. And once every player has been in for some amount of time, it should set a spawn point inside of the portal. So after this, you can simply complete the Gatekeeper encounter in the normal way, grab all of the loot, and then everyone on the team needs to wipe by jumping off the map near the Venus portal. And eventually, the game should actually load that recent spawn point inside of the Venus portal. And when you spawn in, you actually find Atheon is hanging out in here. So if you get enough players in, you can just work Atheon's health down until it's destroyed. Although you don't actually have to get all of the players in the encounter into the Venus portal. But once he's dead, players inside of the portal will need to wipe again until they spawn back into the main boss room. And once a player's in there, they can start the encounter, and it will automatically end after a few seconds, dropping the rewards on the ground and spawning the final chest. So, bit of a bizarre cheese right there. But it does take some messing around, and could potentially be slower than actually getting it done legitimately, but of course it is easier than completing the actual mechanics, I suppose. I should mention though, it won't count as a clear for completion trackers, but it will grant the loot, so just bear that in mind, and Jarv does have a more in-depth video on this as well, if you want to check that out, linked down below. And kind of related to the Vault of Glass, but looking back to some leaks I touched on last week, supposedly this particular leak about future content first emerged on April 24th. Well, that's the first date that anyone has evidence of the leak actually existing, but it was also shared around a lot on the day that Season 14 went live. And the leak stated before Vault of Glass was actually revealed that Wyverns will return, which was kind of a logical guess, but also that encounters would no longer auto-start and would have to be triggered in some way. The fact that we'd be getting a new exotic ship that'll come from the Master difficulty, and then a lack of the Timebreaker Sparrow, as well as Vex Mythoclast and just 6 weapons returning, which does account for weapons like Atheon's Epilogue, which aren't dropping in the D2 version of the raid. And so it's an interesting one, and as leaks go, it's starting to make this one look quite possibly legitimate, but of course we have to just take it with a pinch of salt, as it isn't confirmed content by any means. However, if it is true, the same leak spoke about content we'd see in Season 15 that suggested it's going to be called Season of the Lust. Mara Sov is going to return, with a conclusion for the Dreaming City, but also a ton of weapons being added to the Prophecy Dungeon with random rolls, a refresh on Dreaming City weapons with new perks, and Pit of Heresy getting reprised Altar of Sorrow weapons. And so as we get closer to Season 15, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if even more elements of this supposed leak turn out to be true. However, once again, it's looking pretty curious, and I'll link a video from last week that has more details about what we could expect in Season 15 and Witch Queen, at least according to that leak. Even more leaks right here, but one which a few people have spoke about is actually for a new cutscene this season. So big spoiler alerts, but Monty even posted the cutscene to YouTube, and it shows the story of the Fallen with a bunch of their perspective and how they were abandoned by the Traveler, but also it shows how they paint Saint 14, the great Kel destroyer who literally headbutted a fallen Kel to death, as a monster and a kind of bringer of terror and fear. It kind of shows Saint 14 from their perspective as the boss, right? He's present in their nightmares, and so it's a big perspective shift and gives us the opportunity to sympathize with their reality a little bit. I'm not going to run the whole cutscene right here, but it's very cool, and if you don't mind the spoilers, the full cutscene is linked on Monteven's channel down below. For today though guys, that's what we're rounding up inside of this video, so as always I hope you have found it useful, and if you have enjoyed it, a rating down below very much helps us out, but as always, feel free to give us any of your thoughts on the stuff we've touched on in the comment section down below. And also if you want to keep up to date with the world of Destiny 2, be sure to get subscribed and turn on notifications, and I will be sure to keep you posted. But otherwise for today, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you all very soon.